Hi. Hi guys. Good morning. Let's get started. So if you look over here on the board, we have some announcements, just to keep in mind. There's no food or drinks in this room. Join our Piazza page. You can visit it at go.6148.io/piazza. We'll answer all your burning questions there. And if you are interested in the Intro to Programming/JS workshop, please fill out go.6148.io/intro by, it's on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Cool. So my name is Kimberli, and today I'll be talking about UI, UX, and designing for the user. Just to keep in mind, I'm not a professor, so if you have any questions or I'm going too fast, just like raise your hands. I won't yell at you, so that'll be cool. So what are UI and UX? UI stands for user interface, and it's the design of an interface between a user and a product. User experience is the user's experience of actually using the product. What this intuitively means is that user interface is like how the user interacts with the product, like what the user does with the app that you're building. And user experience is how the product feels to the user. And basically design encompasses both these things and is what the user sees and feels with your product. Cool. So here are some differences between UI and UX. A UI designer asks questions like, how does it work, and where do I find what I need? So if you see on this example of like an applesauce pouch, a UI designer would focus on things like the cap mechanism, how you unscrew it, how you actually squeeze out the applesauce, and the layout of the information on the pouch, so how you can see what the calorie count is, like what's important to you. And a UX designer would focus on the overall experience of using the product. So, is it fun? Like, what emotion does the user feel when he uses it? Is it easy to use? So, like the whole cute factor, the little drawings and the dancing apples, and like the fun part of like playing with your food and squeezing it out. Those are really good, by the way. I think like intuitively, lots of us have experienced good and bad design like in our lives. And if you think about it, design is actually really important. It's everything a user experiences with your product, right? So if something goes wrong, there's a real cost to it. So users like won't be happy, and it'll like waste their time. I want to like open this up to you guys. So does anybody have like examples of like a frustrating experience they've had like with a product? It can be like an app, a physical thing, anything. Yeah.
Often the websites or apps will just email you all the time, and then you kind of like tell them not to email you, and it's really good trying to say because they'll.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think some email clients have this like built-in like unsubscribe button, so like they'll parse your emails and point that out to you like where you can unsubscribe. It's really cool. But yeah, it's like normally. Anything else? Yeah, you recorder?
This is relatively new thing for websites, but when you have this page, it's really long and you scroll down all the way, you can't find the things you need, and then you end up at the bottom, frustrated that you didn't find the things you need. Because the page is so long, I end up like putting the website I'm not interested in.
Right, that's a really good point. Like all this infinity scroll stuff. Yeah, so you like anybody else have any other examples? Yeah, learning modules, materials, you guys hate that stuff? If you like have to grade things on that UI, you'll like hate your life. It really sucks. Anything else? You guys like ever like yell at your computer, be like, this sucks, you like throw your computer in the trash. I don't know. Anything really piss you off? Alright, you guys are really peaceful. But I think you guys understand, like when your user gets frustrated by your product, they won't be very happy. One example of this in the real world, you guys remember this happened a few weeks ago now? This guy, I don't know his name, he was announcing like the Miss Universe winner on the stage, like live TV. Yeah, that guy. And he like announced the wrong winner. So he said like the first second runner up is Miss USA. She comes up, she screams, she cries, she hugs anybody. and then he announces the like first runner-up, which is like second place. And he announced it as, wait, what all happened? Anyway, he announced the wrong winner, and so Miss Columbia came up and took like the first place, like the crown and everything, and was smiling happy. And a minute later, he comes up and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. It was actually Miss Philippines." And if you look at this card, you can kind of see why he made that mistake. Like the Miss Universe 2015 is the winner, and it's like off to the side, on the bottom, in like a different kind of text. This is like something called banner blindness. So if like text on a page looks like it's a title or something that we see often, we'll ignore it. In this case, it's like off away from the rest of the information, so you might just ignore it. And you see like first, oh, it was first place, and you just say that as the winner. So yeah, and that was really embarrassing. Probably like lit up the internet for a night. So there's a big cost to that design. A big part of design isn't just looking pretty. It's about something deeper. It's not just like what colors you're using or like how like high res your pictures are or whatever. Oh shit, sorry. There are other aspects too besides usability, like reliability of your app, security. For our class, we're going to focus on usability, which is like a big part for us because it's like what draws our users to our apps and what keeps them on. So what is usability? It's pretty straightforward. If your users can't figure out what your website is for, if they can't figure out how to use your website, if they can't get the results they expect from your website, and you guys mentioned this earlier, if they get frustrated by your website, they'll leave. You'll lose users, nobody wants your product, you'll like waste all your time building something that nobody wants to work with. In our case, as staff, we won't leave because we have to grade your project, but try to make it a pleasant experience for us. So there are like 5 main elements of usability. It's like, is your design effective? Is it engaging? Is it learnable? Is it efficient? And is it error tolerant? Effectiveness means that the user can accomplish the goals he or she sets out to do. Can they do what they want to do with the app? Engaging means the app is fun to use and kind of like draws people in, makes them happy overall. And for this lecture, we'll focus on the last 3, learnable, efficient, error tolerant. I'll go into those deeper. Any questions so far? Cool. So if you think about learnability, basically it means it's the ability of a user to, or the ability of an interface to allow users to accomplish their tasks on the first try. We all experience this, right? When you're like using an app for the first time, you need to figure out, like, let's say you're using a photo editing app and you want to crop your picture. You have like this like learning process you go through, this cycle of actions that you repeat. So first you would perceive like all the available actions you can take on the UI. You like look at all the buttons, you see like what there is available to click on. You interpret what those actions might do, which means you look at the little like icons on the buttons and like see if they match up with what you like actually want to do in your head. And then you evaluate your actions. So you brainstorm like, oh, like what is the best action I can take that matches what I want to do. You click on it and you evaluate whether you got like the right or wrong response. Like you get feedback about what you just did. So if you think about it, like if you're editing a photo and you click on like the wrong button at first, and you like a different dialogue pops up, you'll know that's when you evaluate, you know that that wasn't the right action. You repeat the cycle again. There are some like specific elements of learnability that I'll talk about more in depth. These are discoverability, feedback, and consistency. What do these mean? Discoverability is the ability for features to be visible to users, for users to be able to find what they're looking for. Sometimes users can go years using a product without knowing some feature exists just because it wasn't very discoverable. One good example of this, if you ever like open a Google app for the first time, this is Google Maps by the way, and you can see right there. It'll give you like a little first time user modal. Like the background will gray out, and this like window will appear saying, "Welcome to Google Maps." And then like it'll like let you like page through and see what features there are available to you. This is really cool because like it only shows up the first time you open the app, like when you're still like getting used to what's going on, and after that it doesn't show up anymore. It's a really great way to point out where features are and like what's available for the user to do. Another big component of learnability is feedback. Basically, this means that when users perform an action, they're able to evaluate whether it did what they wanted it to do. If you see in these examples, if you click on a button, it'll look like it's being pressed. Let me go out. If you like move a slider, the UI will respond with the changes that you're making to the application state. And if you're trying to load something on the app, it'll show you like loading or like a spinning thing. So you know the app is working even when you're waiting for it to finish. Basically, feedback means that your app comes alive to the user and that you know what it's working on at all times, even when you can't actually interact with it. This last one is pretty big. It's often overlooked as well. It's called consistency. Basically, consistency means, does your app make sense and does it mesh with your user's internal model of what they expect the app to do? There are a few different types of consistency. There is internal consistency, which is something we'll talk about more later. It's kind of like a long topic. And there's also external consistency, which we'll see here. These are a bunch of like nav bars from different websites. If you can see, like, if you want to go to like your profile information, where do you move your mouse? You always move it to the top left corner, right corner. There's like a login button there. There's like your username there. That's how you always access it. You guys have like other examples of things that are externally consistent on this page? Anybody? Really? Nobody? Alright. If you look on the top left, the logos are always in the top. Top right. Wait, top left. The logos are always in the top left corner. So if you want to go back home after you navigate really deep into the app, you can always move your mouse to the top left. It's really fast. Click and you go back home. There's also like a search bar in the middle on some cases that like, in some of the apps that let you like universally search the app. And there are like auxiliary buttons next to the profile like that highlight main actions that you can take with the app. So this is like a very like consistent design language across different apps. Users know when they like try something new for the first time, like Facebook, they can find their things where they're looking for. One other kind of consistency is metaphorical consistency, and this means that actions in your app correspond to like your real life analogs. In this case, in that last example of Pandora, there's like a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Like intuitively, we all know that thumbs up means something is good, and thumbs down means something that is bad. So if you click thumbs up, it means you like the song, and if you click thumbs down, it means you don't like the song. It makes sense to the user like on the first try. The next big element of usability is something called efficiency. And this means that actions that are performed by a user more than once can be performed very quickly. So once the user has gotten acquainted with the app and has learned everything they need to know, now they'll be performing like routine actions, and you want that to be a pleasant experience as well. Some concepts in efficiency are cycle time, shortcuts, and anticipation. I'll talk about these with case studies as well. So with cycle time, Well, cycle time is the idea that every action you take has a certain like time it takes to complete, and if you do the same action over and over again, it'll take that time throughout. Things that like factor into this are like scan time. So if you think about the way a user's eye moves on the page, in this example of a type form, your eyes like stay in the same place. You don't have to like read like across huge rows of text. Like the next element moves. Like when you're done with an element on the form, the next one pops up exactly where your previous one was. It's really fast, and you can focus on one thing at a time, but still like move through the form in a logical way. It's pretty cool. And well, actually, I'll talk about later. And you're not like moving your eye like across the page to find different things. If you also think about like physical actions the user needs to take, like if they're using a computer, they have to move their mouse on the page. So when users are moving their cursor, they tend to like, there's like a mathematical like law that people talk about called Fitts law, but that's not really important for this. Basically, it means that like bigger targets and ones that are like closer to the edge of the screen can be like clicked on faster. If you think about like, the way you move your mouse, you just move it to the like top corner all the time. You can access like the X button really fast, right? That's an example of being efficient with pointing time. And one other factor with cycle time is like how like accurate your user's actions need to be in order to perform that same task over and over. If you think about like an expanding submenu, I don't know if you guys have done this, but like if you right click and like there's like a second menu, you have to like move your mouse down here and exactly there. And it takes a long time for the user to perform, especially if they want to do it multiple times in a row. This Tinder app is a really good example of a fast cycle time. You can just like swipe over and over again. People do this, and it makes the user like have a pleasant experience doing the same things, the same routine tasks. The last point, second point in efficiency is something called shortcuts. You want to make sure the user is able to perform the same actions, or like actions that they're accustomed to performing very quickly. A really good example of this is keyboard shortcuts, right? We all know like Command or Control-Z, Control-Enter, those kinds of keyboard shortcuts always like do what we want them to do when we're like in a word editor or something. This example on Slack, you can see if you want to switch between teams, you just press commands like 1, command 2, command 3. It's really fast. And it's like pretty like learnable to the user too. It's like it says right there what you press to access those different shortcuts. Another example is aggregating different commands. So if you select styles on a word processor, this is Google Docs. Let's say you want to apply like a title style to like your main page's like title. All you have to do is click on that dialog and change the styling to title. And that aggregates multiple commands for changing the font size, changing the font type, changing like the font weight, and it puts it in one easy to access command. The last big point in efficiency is something called anticipation. This is really cool. This is like where your app is smart and like does what the user expects it to do before the user even knows they want to do it. One cool example of this is Google Inbox. They do lots of really quick, really crazy stuff. They like keep track of like what your most common contacts are, and like if you want to propose an email on the first tap, it says like what your like best friends are. You can like instantly send an email with like a single tap to them instead of having to type their name into the to field. Another example, they have smart reply. So if you receive an email, they'll like automatically populate a list of different responses you can have to the email. They use some like pretty cool machine intelligence to do that, but it's really helpful to the user. Like it just makes their overall experience using the product really fast and really like time efficient. Some other examples of this that you can use in your apps are like things like autocomplete. So if you have like, let's say you're like selecting a state for an address, you can like start typing in like MA and get Massachusetts in your autocomplete, or Maine, I guess that would come up first. Things like that make your app faster to use. The last big point in usability that we'll talk about today is something called error tolerance. And this means how well the product prevents errors and how well the user can recover from those errors once they're made. Basically, you want your app to be explorable to the user, right? You want them to like have no fear of clicking on different buttons, seeing what they do in their process of using it, and like having the understanding that like if they do make mistakes, the consequences won't be very severe. They can always recover. There are a few big concepts I'll talk about in error tolerance. These are slip prevention, error prevention, and recovery. I'll go over these in a bit. So slip prevention. Slips are like kind of like accidents that users make. They're momentary lapses in memory or execution, like when the user presses the wrong key, for example, or when they forget where exactly your button is located or what it exactly looks like. These are the things that the user already knows how to do, and they're like skilled actions, but like temporarily, like maybe they're tired, maybe they're sleep deprived, they don't know how to, like they make a mistake in executing the action. Some ways to prevent errors like this are to force the user to confirm that they're doing really important actions. So on GitHub, when you're trying to delete a repository, for example, if you click delete once, it won't delete the repository and be gone forever. That'd be like really sad, right? It confirms with the user, like it has like a little dialogue that shows up, like if you want to delete this, type in delete, and that way you're forcing the user to acknowledge that they're doing exactly what they want to do. Another way to prevent slips is to hide dangerous commands. So like things that are high consequence, you would put them in like a secondary menu, kind of away from the main actions you take. So again, Google Inbox, like there's like a list of common actions you can perform with an email, like pinning, snoozing, or marking as done. But if you want to delete or move it to spam, it's hidden in like a secondary drop-down menu. The next big type of error tolerance is error prevention. Errors are different from slips in that they're like actual mistakes the user makes when they don't know what they want to do. It's not like they pressed the wrong button by accident. It's more like they didn't know what button to press and they just pressed a random one. Ways to prevent errors like these are disabling illegal commands. So on Twitter, when you're typing a new tweet, you can't just like send out a blank tweet. Like let's say you open the app for the first time, you click like how to make a tweet, and it shows up. It kind of like the grayed out button right there shows you that you can't make a blank tweet, and like kind of motions the user they have to type in the text box before they can tweet. Also another way to do this is to kind of like be specific about input types in your app. So if you are expecting numbers in the certain text field, you want to make the input type a numerical input type. So on Venmo, when you're entering an amount to send somebody, you would click on the like $, and this number keyboard shows up. It's not like your regular phone keyboard which has letters, which are legal inputs. It kind of goes directly to the kind of input that the app is expecting, so the user knows exactly what you go in a certain text field. When you're making your web apps, you can specify this in HTML as well. Like there's like input type equals, and that will make sure like on mobile devices, if you click on the text field, the right type of keyboard shows up. It's pretty helpful. The last big part of error tolerance is recovery. So when the user makes mistakes, you want the user to be able to recover from them. You want to protect their work and make sure they don't lose their data. So some examples of this are this little like undo button that shows up when you send an email. Let's say like you sent it to the wrong person by accident or like forgot to attach something. After you send it, there'll like be like an undo button for like a short period of time. You can click on it if you want to cancel that action. Another example is when you're trying to like share a photo with somebody, and you can't, like, if like you're not connected to the internet, it'll say can't send photo, retrying in 5 seconds. And there's also like a forced retry when you like are sure you've reconnected. If you look at this error message too, it's really descriptive and helpful to the user. You're not like outputting stack traces. You're not like showing like all these like you're not saying like send fail like exception or something like that. It's not like scary to the user. It's very friendly and like gives them advice and constructive advice on what to do with this error. But then again, also like not all errors are worth a message. You should think about this in the user experience. Let's say you try to input like a wrong credit card number on your app. If you like enter letters in, like you don't need to have a message, you have like a red text field or just like cancel the operation, and not like make the payment submit, right? And also like if you're loading, if like you are loading like a long page, you want to make those operations cancelable. So if they're let's say like uploading like a huge image, you want to have an option to cancel that upload in case they realize that's not what they wanted to do. In general, recovery is really important because it helps with the like explorability of your UI, kind of like making your error consequences less severe, so users are more comfortable and confident using your app. So I mentioned earlier with consistency when we were talking about learnability that internal consistency is really important as well. This kind of ties into like a bigger theme of design language. What does design language mean? It means like the overall way your app looks is very like consistent and has a specific feel when you're across like all screens, across all different like platforms, across all different user interfaces, like different ways to interact with the app. So one really good example of this, people used to praise, like back in the day, like 2009 or whatever, people were like, oh, iOS looks really beautiful. Apple did a really great job with this. And Google, which is like its main competitor with Android, kind of had like its place, like its design language all over the place. Like things are very inconsistent across different apps on their platform. So they created this thing called material design, which is like their overarching framework. If you look at any Google app today, it has a very consistent look to it. Here are some examples. So it's like the Google Inbox app, right? There's like a top bar, there's like a sandwich menu right there. There's like a big action button in the bottom corner. And if you swipe from the side, there's a menu that shows more actions you can take. The same thing applies to Google Maps, right? There's an action button at the bottom. If you navigate somewhere, there's a search bar at top, another menu on the corner, and if you swipe again, the same menu, or like the similar menu shows up. This is Google Play Music, same thing. There's like a menu at the top, a search button on the side, a little like expandable menu again with more actions. You get the point, like they all look the same. And that's really important in your app. You want different different views in your app to all have the same kind of experience to them, to make the user feel comfortable anywhere on the app, make them feel like they are like in the place they expect to be, and if they want to go back home, there's like a really easy way to do that. There are other aspects of consistency in design language besides just like layout. So things like brand colors. You want to make sure that like if you have an error like text color, it's the same across the app, so the user's like comfortable and familiar with what's going on. Something else is like animations. If you include these, like if you want to make your app really polished, let's say you click on a button and it like slowly like fades to a different color to disable or something. That should be consistent like timing wise across the entire app. You want the user to know that they're in this like the right place wherever they are. Or like wording. So this is actually like kind of like overlooked one. Like maybe when you're working in your teams, you might like forget this. Like someone writes a copy for this menu, someone writes a copy for this dialogue. You want the overall like tone of your voice to the user to be similar across different views. So if you have an error, it should be helpful and friendly, just like your welcome message is helpful and friendly. Things like that. And one last thing is like familiar concepts in the app. So let's say you have the idea of like a post on Facebook, right? If you want to write a post from your personal like timeline, you can do that. If you're on a page and you want to write a post, you can do that. And it's called the same thing everywhere, and it means like a very similar thing in all those different cases. Cool. And besides usability, there's like a really important part of good design that sometimes we like forget about. What makes good design really great is that it conveys emotion. One really good example of this is the Airbnb redesign story. It's like my favorite example. People like talk about this all the time. If you look at Airbnb, this is like 2009, 2010. This is like the way the app looks, right? There's like a little search bar on the top, like all these like little icons, and it feels very impersonal to the user. You see like all these people who are offering their own homes to live on the internet. They don't have pictures. The pictures of their apartments are like from far away. Like you can't really tell what they are like inside. It kind of looks like the personal section in a newspaper, like very like distant, yet trying to be familiar. But if you think about their problem, like the problem they're trying to solve, home sharing is like a very like trust-intensive process. You want the user to feel like they're at home when they use their product, and you want them to like trust that the people that they're living, whose houses they're living in, are like safe and not serial killers. So they like thought about this. They like sat all the designers down. They like storyboarded what they want their product to look like, and they came up with like a huge redesign. It's pretty cool. If you look at their new page, there's like a huge welcome home banner at the top. Like as soon as you enter the Airbnb website, you can see like, oh, I'm at home. This is like where I want to be. There's like this really cool like background video that loops of like different like scenes from the travel experience, like someone like coming into your house, like someone like dropping the kid off at school, like all these things that you would see staying in an Airbnb, you see like on their main website. It really like puts you in the moment, makes you feel like that you're like using the product, makes you want to go somewhere using like an Airbnb. They also redesigned their local places. Love Airbnb. It's like a really cute thing. They like have like this huge like they want the logo to be like drawable by anybody, to mean the same thing everywhere. So they have like the story behind their brands, and like it's told through the design of the app as well. One like very concrete example of what they did, they used to have they have a feature called wish lists. So if you want to like mark down places that you want to stay in later, but like maybe not right now. Like you don't have an immediate trip plan, but you want to go like to New York later, and you like this apartment a lot. You can add it to your wish list. Before they had like these like star buttons, which are kind of like generic like internet buttons that we use to like favorite something. But one intern actually changed this button to a heart button. Thinking like it'd be like more emotional, would appeal more to the users, and that day they saw engagement go up by 30%. Pretty huge number considering like how hard it is to get users engaged in your app, and just like a very simple action changing from a star to a heart made their app more like emotional to the users. Twitter I think did this recently too with their like stars and hearts. People like are trying to emulate this, but it's really cool. In general, you can see that like having a thought-out design story makes your users feel very like comfortable and very like engaged in your product. This is like ultimately your end goal of design, right? You want the user to experience like the pleasant experience that like whatever it is, like happiness or fun or like satisfaction, all those different things. Like you want to decide like what emotion your user should feel using your app and try to make that happen through concrete things on your website. Let's go into a case study. So I want to like review basically like what we talked about in usability earlier through this example of an alarm clock. Let's say that we are designing an alarm clock app, right? This is like an alarm clock, this is like a physical one. How would we make an alarm clock app learnable? Any suggestions? Yeah?
It should be really easy to figure out how to make it shut up in the
the first time you use your app, if it's like, 6 in the morning and like it's blaring at you, you want to be able to figure out the first try how to like make it shut off, make it snooze, make it do whatever you want it to do. So make the buttons big, maybe like have very descriptive text. Yeah, that'd be very helpful. Anything else for learnability? Yeah? Yeah, that's a good point too. I guess like one caveat is that you don't want it to be like too long or too obtrusive. So like after the first time, when the user already knows what to do, it's like not in the way, right? But yeah, it's a very good point, like a short descriptive text. Any other suggestions? All right, cool. Yeah, that's kind of what I have too. There's an example of an alarm. It has like a description right here. You can set the hours and minutes in just a few seconds. So it makes it seem really easy, and it kind of tells you exactly what you're doing on that screen. What are ways you can make the design of the app efficient? Any ideas? Let's say like it's 5 in the morning, I just finished a piece set, and I need to set like 10 alarms for 10 a.m. when I go to class, so I don't go to sleep. How do you make this a pleasant experience for your users? I guess like one example is that on iOS, if you want to add an alarm, you have to like scroll through every single possible minute. It's kind of annoying if you want to add multiple alarms. Like I don't really want an alarm for 10:03. Probably like want 10 o'clock or 10:05, right? So what's the point of making me act through it? Any other examples of efficiency in the alarm clock app? Yeah, I guess that's like pretty good. Cool. Sorry. What about error tolerance? What are ways you can make your app prevent errors for the user and also recover from them? Illustrations? Not really? Okay. Oh, yes. That's a really important point. You don't want to accidentally set an alarm for like the wrong time and not be able to delete it. That would really suck because then it'll wake you up unnecessarily. Cool. Yeah, so that's actually what I have here. If you like, well, it's like, yeah, if you create an alarm, you can like undo that easily, and then also if you delete it, there's like a little undo button that you can like quickly recover from what you just did, just in case you realize you made a mistake. Another good example would be like, let's say you make an alarm for like 8 o'clock. In Android, I think the clock app will tell you like alarm set for like 7 hours, 45 minutes from now. And that way you know you're not doing like AM or PM incorrectly, which is also really important, right? Cool. So I guess like in summary, like these big features, learnability, efficiency, and error tolerance are what make the experience of using your app really pleasant for the user. By focusing on these 3 things, you can really make your app kind of like the best it can be for whatever purpose the user needs it for, right? And for the context of this class, you can make your app like impress us, impress people who are using it, and like, I don't know, like be proud of your product, right? Cool. I guess like that pretty much covers what I had planned for today. Here are some like extra resources you can look at. There's a really cool class at MIT called 6813 that talks a lot about this stuff, like in super detail. I just did like a quick overview of like the entire class in like this time period, but like they talk about like the mathematical law I mentioned, like Hooke's law. They talk about like all these different like thought processes a user can go through. It's a really cool class. And there's some other like cool like resources right there. Like there's Google Fonts. You can like get really cool web safe fonts there. MakerBook has a bunch of like different like color resources, like pictures, things like that that you want to use when you're designing your app. Cool. Any other last questions?